everybody. My name is Samya. I'm the International Admissions Counselor here at SUNY Korea. Thank you all once again for joining us. So now that you've heard from Yesa about the Stony Brook and FIT programs that we offer, we're going to look at the admission process, campus life, placement information, and scholarship recipient cases, admitted student study cases, admission tips. You will also get the chance to hear from our student ambassadors and a Q&A session at the end, so please make sure you stick around. So we'll talk quickly about the enrollment quota and schedule. I guess one quick thing to remember when it comes to the schedule and quota is that for Stony Brook, we have 2 entry semesters, so that's fall and spring. For FIT, we only have fall entry. So if you are planning to join, these quotas are something you want to kind of keep in mind because we are enrolled rolling admission based. So of course, the earlier you apply, the best it would be. As for the quotas, depending on each department, they are a little bit different. For example, if you have 40 students for AMS, that means, let's say, for example, 20 enrolled in fall, the rest will enroll in spring. As for FIT, the 105 students that we enroll, essentially they all enter in the fall semester. Let's look at the yearly schedule. So the main thing to remember here is that spring and fall semester, they always start at a similar period. The spring would start at the end of February, early March, and the fall would start at the end of August, beginning of September. The application periods are quite long for each of these semesters. For the spring, you would for Stony Brook, you would basically have all the way from July until the end of January to apply, and for the fall semester for SBU programs, you have all the way from October all the way to July, basically. And the same thing goes for FIT fall semester programs. So you have a lot of time to prepare. Obviously, you do not want to wait until the last minute, but that means you will have a lot of time to prepare for your application, your personal statement, etc. For our 2021 and 2022 important dates, of course, all of these deadlines are on our website, so you don't have to remember all of them right now, but I just kind of want to mention a couple of information regarding these deadlines. You have your priority application deadline and your regular deadline. Priority application, also known as early action. Essentially, you do not have to commit, but if you apply before that priority application deadline, you have, I guess, higher chances of entering the program you wanted. And if you're applying for scholarship and financial aid, this is also a deadline you want to keep in mind. Like I just mentioned before, rolling admission, it means that we do accept application for quite a long period of time, and at the same time, you get your results depending on the date you applied. So you're not only getting your results all at once, we send them student by student, case by case. Same thing for FIT. Of course, these dates can change, the deadlines can be extended. And sometimes application closes even before the final deadline. So while you want to keep in mind these dates, you always want to check back on our website and make sure that the dates are updated. Make sure you did not miss any updates. So the admission process is quite similar for Stony Brook programs and FIT programs. The main thing here to remember would be that Stony Brook University applicants are required to have an interview sometimes. If this is required, if this is necessary, we will get in touch with you separately to organize an interview. And if you are wondering what kind of interviews, how long do they last, essentially they are 15 to 20 minutes interviews with our department chairs and 1 admission counselor. The interviews are conducted in English. There are no, new questions or complicated questions. It's essentially related to the application documents you submitted and the major you chose. So make sure you are prepared a little bit. But you start your application through our application portal, sunykorea.ac.kr. You click on the apply button. You will be directed to a page where you create your account. You select a round, what semester you're applying for, what program you're applying for, and you start your application. Once you submit it, we do a quick document check, we do a quick review, make sure nothing is missing, and the applications are moved over to the New York campuses, since that's where the final decision is coming from. This is a common question we get. the final review, the final decision is made in New York. And the other thing you want to remember is when you're applying to both Stony Brook programs and FIT programs, you have to select a campus to apply for. You cannot apply to both South Korea and New York campuses. You have to select one to apply. And once you do that, you either start your application, submit, etc. Make sure you have made your application payment fee as well. And if you have applied for scholarship or financial aid, the evaluation is done locally at SUNY Korea. So after we receive the final decision, you will be receiving both your admission offer, your admission letter, and scholarship offer or financial aid, sometimes even both if you have applied to both of them at the same time, which, by the way, is possible. These are the documents you will be needing. They are quite similar, but there are a few differences you want to remember. So if you are applying for Stony Brook University program, you do have the provisional admission option. I believe Mick mentioned this, talked to you a little bit earlier about the provisional admission and what it means. You have that option for Stony Brook University programs, but you do not have that option for FIT. So if you do not have an official English score ready, and if you do not qualify for the waiver, then you can select the provisional admission option. And if you are wondering, it's usually 1 to 2 semesters in an intensive English course. After you finish IEC, you basically move on to the major that you have originally chosen when you apply. So for Stony Brook University programs, you will essentially be needing 4 documents. These are the required ones. You have your high school transcript, and if you're a transfer student, don't forget your college transcript. If you have less than 24 credits, you want to submit both. If you have over 24 credits, just your college transcript will be enough. Your personal statement. Personal statements do not have a specific format. It is an open question. It is a general question. And if you want to see exactly how it is, you can do so on our application portal. The recommendation letter, you need only one. And if you are applying locally, you can submit it in both Korean and English. An English proficiency test score. So unless you qualify for a waiver, this is a requirement for both schools. There are more tests that we accept that are not mentioned in this list, AP, for example, or IB scores, etc. So please head over to our website to see the full list of scores that we accept. But yes, you will be needing an English proficiency test score. We get sometimes questions, is it better if I have a higher English score? Not necessarily. English scores are mainly a number for us to make sure that you will be able to join SUNY Korea without having any problems in terms of communicating, understanding, etc. So it is just an English test level. It's not necessarily, it does not affect the admission decision that much. Of course, as long as you meet the minimum requirement. And other than the required documents, you do have a supplementary document section where students would usually submit their extracurriculars, any certificates, any activities they've participated in before. There are, I guess, no right or wrong documents when it comes to the supplementary documents, but these are something you want to focus on, and you want to submit as much as you can, as long as, of course, they're relevant and they relate to what you're applying, the program you're applying for. And you also have your optional essays. So if you feel like you missed something in the personal statement, because you do have a limit of 650 words, if you feel like you missed something in the personal statement that you want to tell us, then you'll have to head to the optional essays and submit as many as you can. You have about 5. You can submit all of them. You can submit one of them or a few. And of course, if none of the optional essay questions, I guess, match what you were trying to basically communicate, you can always submit an extra essay in the supplementary documents. But we do recommend trying to keep everything in the personal statement. For the Fashion Institute of Technology, FIT programs, you have 3 to 4 required documents. This is going to depend on what program you're applying for. And again, just to remind you, there are no provisional admissions for FIT programs. You will be needing your high school transcript. Same thing if you are a college student. If you are enrolled currently in an undergrad school, you will also be required to submit your transcript, your personal statement, and your English proficiency test score. So again, unless you qualify for a waiver, this is a requirement. The waiver requirements are a little bit different for both programs, so please head over to our application portal to check whether you qualify for a waiver or not. But unless you qualify for it, you will need an English proficiency test score, and these are the 4 that FIT currently accepts. If you're applying for fashion design, you will need a portfolio, which we will get to in a little bit, but portfolio, you want to spend time on this, you want to do lots of research, and basically spend as much time on it as you can, because it is a big part of your application if you are a fashion design applicant. And again, same with Stony Brook, you have the supplementary documents option where you can submit anything outside of the required documents. Okay, the portfolio that we just talked about, that is a requirement for fashion design students. You have your essay, a couple design projects, and a sewing project. This part is, I guess, it's basically a pressure for fashion design applicants because it can be a little bit challenging at first. That's why we do recommend doing lots of research and lots of practice before you submit the final one. You also want to check out our events where we invite our faculty members, our department chairs. They talk a lot about the portfolio. They give you actual tips, technical tips, and they also show you examples, which is really important. So for the IEC program that we talked about earlier, which is available for Stony Brook University program applicants, this is a 6 months to 6 month, basically 1 semester to a year program. You basically have completion requirements for this, and as soon as you're done with it, you move on to the major that you originally chosen. So the classes that you have originally chosen, you either basically finish this with an IEC minimum B in IEC 112, 113, plus an English test score, or you complete the IEC 114 course with a minimum B grade. As for the cost of attendance, another common question that we get, you have your application fee that you pay at the beginning. So you submit your application online and you pay $50 US. You can pay this locally if you are in Korea, and you can also pay it internationally. Everything is in the portal. On your status portal, you have exact information on how to make this payment. And if you still can't find that information, please get in touch with us. You do not have any enrollment fee. The tuition fee is $23,550 US per year. This is a yearly amount, which means that you will be paying this once, basically every semester. You do not pay this amount all at once. We have double rooms and single rooms in the residence hall, and it is up to the student to choose which one they prefer. Currently, the rates are every 17 weeks, so essentially every full semester. And for living expenses, it's good to keep in mind that you will be needing about $400 US every month to maintain essentially your lifestyle. Again, this is going to depend on what lifestyle we're talking about, but 400 is I guess a minimum to keep in mind. We do not have any meal plans, but just to give you an idea, meal coupons on IGC, they usually would cost between $4 to $5. So in order to help you with afford your education, and in order to provide a little bit of assistance to our students, Mick mentioned earlier that 40% of our applicants receive some form of scholarship and financial aid. And like I mentioned, you can't apply for both at the same time, and we do have students who receive both. So you have multiple types of scholarships with different amounts. Again, the amount you'll be receiving is going to depend on a few things, but just basically you want to keep in mind that scholarships are more merit-based and financial aid is more need-based. So financial aid looks at your financial status, looks at your financial situation. You will have to submit documents that prove family relations, income, etc. Whereas for scholarship, it's just a self-statement. Unless you're applying for a sibling scholarship, you want to identify that. You want to tell us that you are. Otherwise, it is a self-statement. And again, the amount you receive will be selected after evaluation. We're going to look at some previous scholarship recipients. This is probably the most common question we get from international students. How do I receive a scholarship? What are the requirements? Now, where There are, of course, no minimum scores, no required GPAs or stats in order to receive a specific scholarship or a specific amount. But hopefully, looking at these cases will give you an idea in terms of what kind of students received what kind of awards before. So we'll look at student number 1, Stony Brook applicant, MEC. MEC was their first choice. They were an international student and applied for Shared Prosperity Scholarship. Now, yes, the stats are impressive. Duolingo 135, an SAT of 1,400. But outside of that, this student was very active, lots of extracurriculars. Same thing goes for the second student. This student actually chose computer science as their first choice, but after evaluating and looking at their application, looking at their personal statement, we identified that AMS would actually be a better choice for them, and they went with it. They went with their second choice, although CS was the first one. This was a Korean applicant. They received both scholarship and financial aid. I mentioned just now that you can apply for both. A merit award of $5,000 and financial aid of $2,500. Again, you can see the stats. Both students had very similar SAT scores, and the second student also took AP classes. And one of the classes they took were AP Calculus BC, which is, AP classes actually not only are they important in terms of admission, but you actually also get actual course credits for these scores. So if you do have AP scores, ACT, SAT scores, make sure you submit them, make sure you send them to us officially through College Board or whichever testing agency you've used. So again, this student was also very active with lots of extracurriculars, lots of contests. They did coding clubs, and they also tutored for AP classes. Looking at the FIT students, the first student was a Korean student, a fashion design student. They received an award of merit 3,000. They had an average IB scores of 6 to 7 and a TOEFL IBT of 100. They participated in UN activities, in World Scholars Cup Arts. They received individual honors, and they also received an award in English language and literature. Last student, international student who applied for fashion design, merit of that $5,000. Again, the stats are impressive, but same thing. I guess the extracurriculars are actually what made the students stand out. So the student participated in a few school productions, which in their personal statement, they mentioned that this is where they actually found out about their interest in fashion design. And they were also awarded as a head consumer and aesthetics manager in junior year. So while I did mention that a few of these students were Korean international, I just want to remind you that your nationality, citizenship, does not make any difference, does not matter in terms of what scholarship you receive or financial aid. But however, there are a few awards who are specific to international students.